8 Sleep makes a product that is amazing, which I love. It's called the Pod, and it fits around your existing mattress and cools down your bed so you can sleep better. They just released the newest model called the Pod 4 Ultra, which in addition to cooling down or heating up your bed, can even lift up your head when you're snoring so you can breathe better. It's incredible. To get $350 off, go to 8sleep.com/Pacman and use code Pacman. The link is in the description. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. We are really in the home stretch here in the 2024 presidential, House, and Senate elections. An incredibly busy weekend. This will be an incredibly busy week, including the vice presidential debate tomorrow night, Tuesday night, for which I hope you will join me live. We have so much to catch up on from this weekend and the increasingly bifurcated dynamics of the Harris-Walz campaign and the Trump-Vance campaign. Now, today we're not doing polling. For those who every day wake up in the morning and say, I need Parkman to talk about polls, you're not going to get what you want today. But from everybody who's been writing in saying, David, sir, please no more polls. We get it. Everybody must vote. It might go this way. It might go that way. For that crowd, today's program will be particularly titillating because we will not be speaking about polls. Today will be a qualitative show rather than a quantitative show. Kamala Harris holding multiple events over the weekend. Donald Trump holding multiple events over the weekend. And all of them pointing in one direction, pointing to one question. How on God's green earth is this thing even close to tied? How is it possible? Let's start with Kamala Harris, who, speaking in Douglas, Arizona, really got to the core of what is the bottom of the barrel with Trump, which is that Trump doesn't care about what's good for the country, even by his own determinations of what's good for the country. Trump's prism through which every decision goes through is what's good for me. And the context here is the border security bill, which contained so many of the things Trump wanted, and he killed it because he wanted to run against Harris on that basis, not actually see the problem fixed. Kamala Harris getting better at laying this out in a way that really connects with the audience. Take a listen.
And why last December I helped raise the rate of overtime pay for border agents, and also why I strongly supported the comprehensive border security bill. Written last year, as you know, by a bipartisan group of senators, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress. That bill would have hired 1,500 more border agents and officers. It would have paid for 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl that is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. It would have allowed us to more quickly and effectively remove those who come here illegally, and it would have increased the number of immigration judges and asylum officers.
But
it was the strongest border security bill we have seen in decades. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, and it should be in effect today, producing results in real time right now for our country. But Donald Trump tanked it. He picked up the phone and called some friends in Congress and said, stop the bill. Because you see, he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And the American people deserve a president who cares more about border security than playing political games and their personal political future.
now, what's the upside and the downside to this story? The story's accurate. It's the truth. The bill contained much of what Republicans and Trump said we must do in order to secure our border. And yet Trump said, no, we're not going forward. Don't do it because I want this to keep running against. I need the fodder to keep saying they're not fixing it. So on the one hand, it is such a cut and dry and naked political action that calling it out and pointing it out makes a hell of a lot of sense. On the other hand, when as a general principle, these elections come down to the economy to a great degree and what you believe about the candidates as individuals, well, I guess to a certain degree, Trump being willing to say, don't do a bill that I actually think is good for mere political gain does point to who Donald Trump is as an individual. But I don't know if understanding what happened to the border bill is really going to be a make or break issue for a lot of voters. Now, regardless, Kamala Harris is handling this exactly correctly. She is pointing out that there was a solution here. It was a bipartisan solution. We had come to an agreement. We, Democrats and Republicans, had come to an agreement on the vast majority of this stuff. And it continues to be politics and politics alone that gets in the way of solving a lot of the real issues that we have here. We don't have nearly enough immigration judges. For all of the complaints about, from the right, about they come here, they say, I seek asylum, and then all of a sudden they're in the country and nothing happens for months or even years. Well, we can deal with that, not by getting rid of the ability to seek asylum, which is a fundamentally American thing. We solve the problem by more quickly being able to adjudicate asylum claims by getting more immigration judges going. That was part of the bill. It's something Republicans have acknowledged is a good idea. But no, it's not going to work. They don't want it. And it's all for political reasons. So Kamala Harris in Douglas, Arizona, staying very much on message. And we have to see what happened at her rally in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's talk about that next. We know that Donald Trump is extraordinarily sensitive about the size of his crowds. This is not even something that we on the left particularly care about. I mean, Biden had small crowds in 2020 because we were in the middle of a pandemic and he chose not to do mass rallies at which COVID could spread like wildfire. It wasn't a sign that people weren't behind him. It was just a sign that he wasn't holding rallies. However, now that it has been made part of the sort of way that we evaluate how a campaign is going, thanks to Trump, it is impossible to watch these Harris rallies and not say, wow, damn, by Trump's own standards, these rallies for Kamala Harris are absolutely on fire. We're going to get to that in a moment. The energy, absolutely off the charts. But first and foremost, here is Kamala Harris addressing the aftermath and devastation from Hurricane Helene, as well as the recovery that the administration is working on.
And we will stand with these communities for as long as it takes to make sure that they are able to recover and rebuild. Earlier today, I received an operational briefing from FEMA Director Criswell. More than 3,300 federal personnel have been mobilized. We are deploying food, water, and generators and working to restore water and power. And the President and I have told state and local leaders we will provide whatever help they need in the days and weeks ahead. And so I thank you all for sending your best wishes to everyone there. Thank you.
This is just basic stuff of how leaders talk in times of crisis and natural disasters and catastrophes of different kinds. We're just, DeSanctimonious is a disgusting and vile person. That's my editorializing. He's in Florida. But there's no even hesitation for a moment about the fact that we're going to do what needs to be done. Now, maybe most notable at this event, the absolutely massive, massive crowd and the energy off the charts. Nobody leaving, nobody sleeping, nobody checking their phone.
You're not going back. You're not going back.
This is very much not the energy of the Trump campaign events. And Kamala Harris also taking the opportunity during this event to say that the political games must stop, sort of piggybacking on the story about Trump killing the very border bill that contained the stuff he claimed to want.
We need a president who cares more about solving problems than playing political games and demeaning people full time. We're tired of that. We're done with that.
Kamala Harris also sort of alluding to Trump's diminished energy and vigor, one might say.
And as you say here in Las Vegas, I'm all in. I'm all in. Even if my opponent is ready to fold. So there you go.
It is time to move on. And then finally, just once again, as Kamala Harris wraps up the speech, I don't even care about crowd size. We only even think about this prism because of the last 9 years of Trump. But these crowds are absolutely wild for Kamala Harris.
Are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
So the events of Kamala Harris over the weekend, laying out a positive vision for America. I believe that Tim Walz will do the same thing at tomorrow night's debate, which I think is the most anticipated vice presidential debate I can remember. I mean, when Sarah Palin debated, yes, there was a curiosity, sort of like a look at the train crash curiosity. When Joe Biden ran circles around Paul Ryan, it was fascinating to see and extraordinarily entertaining, but not seen as massively consequential. Tomorrow night's VP debate, I am very much looking forward to it. Let's take a brief diversion from the speeches of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I want to talk to you about Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey. I don't know how many of you are familiar with supposed financial guru Dave Ramsey. He likes to kind of take this whole, shucks, I'm just a simple financial guy from the South and I care about ideas and I'm not overtly partisan. Of course, we all know what the politics are of Ramsey as an organization. We know about what the Ramsey policies were around vaccination and COVID, and it's just a very right-wing organization. But put that aside for a second. Dave Ramsey wants us to know that he offered time to both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Trump accepted the interview, whereas Kamala Harris has not. And once you understand that Ramsey is not an unbiased arbiter who just wants to neutrally and subjectively talk about ideas, you kind of understand why Kamala Harris might not be itching to sit down with Dave Ramsey, but they always want to frame it as, they're either scared because I'm going to hold them accountable or whatever. Put that aside for a second. I want you to listen to the claims that Dave Ramsey makes in this video with regard to what's happening in the economy. Every single one of them is wrong, and we're going to go through them. But this is a absolutely critical example of how they manufacture an environment that is itself imaginary to then justify saying, well, here's the right ideas from Trump, or the Harris administration would obviously do the wrong things because as part of the Biden administration, they're doing the wrong things. We will get to that. But just listen to how casually Ramsey slips in a whole bunch of stuff that's just not true. Let's listen.
I had an unusual thing happen. Our team several weeks ago reached out to the Trump organization and reached out to the Harris organization, Vice President Harris, President Donald Trump, and offered the ability to sit down and have a discussion about ideas.
Wow.
Because I'm sick and tired of all the mudslinging. I'd like to talk about ideas because I think ideas are worth fighting over and arguing about. And if you want to sit down and talk about ideas and do a long-form interview, the Harris camp has our request. The last word we got was under review. So not been a yes, not been a no from them. But I flew to New York, and at this time yesterday, I was in Trump Tower interviewing President Donald Trump for an hour. Or for 35 minutes anyway, ended up being. Went a little quicker than we thought it was going to go. So our first question, I'll go ahead and preview it. I just said, okay, Mr. President, we talk to real people every day. Let me tell you what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about a bunch of the stuff you're talking about. The stuff they're concerned about, $7 eggs, $5 gas, 7% interest rates, and house prices going up faster than their wages are going up. This black cloud that's over our economic situation right now. And we can talk about how it got there. We can talk about what you used to do. You can talk about the current administration, but I don't really want to. What I want to talk about is what you're going to do in the first 90 days.
There you go. Now, he just wants to talk about ideas. He's a neutral guy, right? He'll sit down with Harris. He'll sit down with Trump and talk about ideas. It's that simple. What's happening economically? Except he mentions we want to know about $7 eggs, $5 gas, 7% interest rates, and house prices going up faster than wages. Except none of that is true. Everything there is exaggerated. So let's just go through these one by one. He talks about $7 eggs. Now you might say, is that half dozen or a dozen? Are those organic or non-organic? Pasture raised or not? White or brown? What's the deal? Now I'll tell you, anecdotally, I get $7 eggs. I really value those pasture raised eggs, hipster eggs with the orange yolk. I don't want that lame light yellow color. Okay, I pay $7 for eggs. Sometimes it's $6.89. I get these pasture raised eggs. But what I pay for 1 dozen eggs isn't how we measure what eggs cost. And we have metrics for this. We measure the price of eggs as large, white, grade A, dozen, blended average between organic, non-organic, cage-free, free-range, and traditional. Okay? And right now, the St. Louis Fed tracks this. We don't have to go, oh, well, Tucker went into a store in Fort Worth and the eggs were X. No, as of August 2024, that dozen eggs, the sort of index dozen eggs is $3.20. Dave Ramsey says we want to talk about $7 eggs. So he's overstating the price of eggs by 118%. Is that going to give us a good neutral and objective starting point for figuring out what's going on when you're claiming that eggs as measured cost twice as much? Now, people will write in, no, I was just at Whole Foods and the eggs cost this or that. With all of these things, it's a huge country. We have to agree upon how we are measuring this. You can find $7 dozens of eggs. I buy them every single week or every other week, but that's not how we measure. Okay, then he goes, we've got $5 gas. Is there gas for $5 some places? Yes, there absolutely is. The current national gas price is $3.20. So Dave Ramsey is overstating that by 56%. Again, it doesn't mean prices are high, low, whatever. But as you can see, looking at the chart that we have here, gas prices are at $3.20 and they've come down significantly from where they were at another point in time. He says 7% interest rates on mortgages. Okay, well, we can look that up as well. The current national rate for a 30-year fixed is 6.2. So Ramsey overstates that by 13%. But more importantly, these rates are coming down quite quickly thanks to the federal funds rate being cut. We're expecting 30-year fixed to be in the fives very soon. You can already get 5.5 on adjustable rates or 15-year fixed. And these numbers are coming down. So he overstates them, and they're also very clearly on the way down. Now, finally, he says we need to talk about housing prices going up faster than wages. It's very regional. It depends, well, which real estate market and which employment market. It's more complicated. It's regionally sensitive. But it is absolutely the case that in many regions, without a doubt, home prices have increased faster than wages. The problem is Republicans are against most of the policies that would deal with that, which is building dramatically more housing inventory, raising the minimum wage. Right. Most of the things that would create more parity between home prices and wages, Republicans, to the extent that Trump even knows that these are the proposals, he's against them. And it's yet another way that they distort this entire discussion. So from watching that, it's not a big shock that Kamala Harris isn't itching to sit down with Dave Ramsey. Now, I would still love her to do it. Why not? I say go in and do it. But from a campaign standpoint, it's like, why would you do that when this guy's a completely dishonest arbiter of what's happening in the economy already? So send me your thoughts on Ramsey. make sure you're subscribed at youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. We'll take a very quick break and the program will continue. Our sponsor, 8 Sleep, is the creator of the Pod, which can be added to your existing mattress like a fitted sheet to automatically cool down or warm up each side of your bed, and in turn improve your sleep quality dramatically. Meet their newest model, 8 Sleep's Pod 4 Ultra. It cools, it heats, and now it can elevate your head automatically. Pod 4 Ultra can cool down each side of the bed to 20 degrees below room temperature, keeping you and your partner cool even in a heat wave. The Pod can even detect your snoring and automatically lift your head by a few degrees to improve that airflow and stop your or your partner's snoring. There is nothing else like it on the market. I've been using 8 Sleep products for a long time, and it's one of the few things in my house that I couldn't go without now. Pod 4 Ultra also introduces an adjustable base that fits between your mattress and your bed frame to add reading and sleeping positions to help you unwind at night. Go to 8sleep.com/Pakman and use code Pakman to get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra. The link is in the description. The David Pakman Show is an audience-supported program. You can get the full experience every day by signing up at joinpakman.com. You'll get the daily bonus show, commercial-free audio and video streams of the show made available hours before the show is published to everybody else, the members-only soundboard, and invitations to members-only town hall events. It's just a few bucks a month and even less if you pay for the year up front. You can sign up at joinpakman.com and use the coupon code SAVEDEMOCRACY24. SAVEDEMOCRACY24 at joinpakman.com. Donald Trump spoke in Erie, Pennsylvania over the weekend, and as an incredible contrast to the speeches of Kamala Harris in Las Vegas, Nevada, and in Douglas, Arizona, Donald Trump was vindictive. He glitched a number of times, suggested horrible violence at various points during the speech, and during the town hall sort of Q&A portion of one of the events, did not directly answer a single question. Now, we're going to be delving a little more into the projective nature of Trump's new obsession with Kamala Harris, but his new thing is that it's Kamala who's stupid, dumb, and has cognitive decline. And when Trump starts talking about it, the crowd chants, "Lock her up." Law and order, right? Or something like that.
USA, this is what we're bringing. But we're bringing them in at levels that nobody's ever seen, and we're doing it by stupid people like Kamala. She's a stupid person. Stupid person. I don't care. I don't care.
These people are sleepwalking. They are sleepwalking. Lock up Hillary. Okay, well, for what crime? And usually you want to be at least charged and convicted before you lock anybody up. And it's the same thing with Kamala Harris. Lock her up. What are you talking about? I thought you were the party of law and order. No, there's no respect for law and order. And they are just stumbling towards voting for this very same nonsense again. And then Trump straight up goes, there's something wrong mentally with Kamala Harris. He's pushing this, and it's not crazy to think that this is about Trump's own insecurities, about his own brain.
You know, it'll end immediately. Crooked Joe Biden became mentally impaired, sad. But lying Kamala Harris, honestly, I believe she was born that way. There's something wrong with Kamala. And I just don't know what it is, but there is definitely something missing. And you know what? Everybody knows it.
There is some unblemished, unvarnished, unfettered projection there. And as all of you can clearly tell anytime you hear Kamala Harris speak, cognitive decline or mental impairment is not a concern. You might not like her tax policy. All right. You might not like her work as a prosecutor when she worked in California. Okay, well, that's substantive. but mentally impaired. And Trump is pushing the same. He has his hammer. It's a very small hammer to fit into his very small hand, but it's a hammer nonetheless. And the hammer with Hillary was prosecute, lock up, impeach, whatever. And now he is saying about Kamala Harris, she should be impeached and prosecuted. For what?
Murdered because of her action at the border, and thousands more will follow in rapid succession. She should be impeached and prosecuted for her actions.
There you go. People came into the country illegally while she was vice president, so she should be prosecuted. Following that same standard, people came into the U.S. illegally while Donald Trump was president, so he should be Oh, no. They're for law and order. So that, I guess, it's just not the way it works. Donald Trump claiming wildly that Joe Biden is responsible for the small crowd at his rally. And the crowd is the previous day in Wisconsin, and the crowd is silent. You can hear a pin drop until Trump attacks Iran. And then that gets them going pretty quickly.
Wisconsin yesterday, and except for the fact that the administration would not let us have we had 50,000, maybe more people, and we were going to do an outdoor rally, and we ended up having to do it inside in front of about 1,000 people. But we had 50,000 people that showed up, but they didn't want me to be outside. They said they couldn't get us enough people because they were guarding the United Nations and Iran. The president of Iran is here. But
Boo. Actual diplomatic functions and big boy events were going on, and Trump claims it affected his rally. It affected the number of people who were allowed to go to his rally in Wisconsin. Now, in maybe the only moment of candor and honesty during this entire speech in Erie, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump says what I think he really believes, which is that if Kamala Harris wins, it's not going to be so good for Donald Trump. Now, the reason I say it's his perception is I don't believe Kamala Harris has any intention, just like Joe Biden hasn't, in going after Trump in any way. Courts will adjudicate cases, judges will render sentence, politically, whatever it is that is supposed to happen to MAGA will happen to MAGA. Trump is wrong that Kamala Harris has plans to make things unpleasant for him if she wins, but it is Trump's perception, which is what motivates, I would argue, him even running here.
no, this is a radical left lunatic we're dealing with. By the way, if she wins, it's not going to be so pleasant for me, but I don't care. I really don't care.
There you go. Trump's wrong, but his motivation here in running, to a great degree, is he believes that being president can get him out of the legal and political problems that he is facing due only to his own actions. Donald Trump did mention, by the way, if they win, it will be because they have cheated. And he specifically points the finger at cities with large non-white Democratic populations.
I'm here only because they cheat, and they cheat in this state, especially in Philadelphia. And I'll mention a couple of the areas, but for the most part, but Philadelphia is out of control. Detroit is out of control. Atlanta is out of control. Places are out of control, because if there was no cheating, if God came down from a high and said, I am going to be your vote tabulator for this election, I would leave this podium right now because I wouldn't have to speak. We wouldn't have any problem. We have to have a landslide because they cheat so damn much.
And of course, we know from speaking to election experts, investigators of so-called election fraud, etc., that the best insurance, it's funny, Trump says they cheat. He tried to steal the election, but put that aside for a moment. The best insurance against a renewed attempt at stealing the election in November is a victory so big that none of Trump's planned challenges and mechanisms and subterfuge will achieve anything. Finally, Trump closing out his speech by screaming so loudly it makes the mic clip about making America healthy and some other stuff.
Powerful again. We will make America wealthy again, healthy again, strong again, proud again, safe again, free again, and we will make America great again.
I don't know why I am skeptical that the obese guy who doesn't exercise and eats mostly fast food is going to usher in a new era of health in the United States. Call me skeptical, but it's hard to believe that that's what we're going to see. So there is Trump in Erie, Pennsylvania. And if you thought it was bad when he was just reading off of a teleprompter, just wait until you see what happened when he tried to answer questions. Donald Trump attempted to answer questions from the audience in Warren, Michigan at a campaign event. He tried to use language and words associated with the English language to convey meaning, and it did not work. Donald Trump was hilariously asked, the question's not funny, but the hilarious part is the idea that he might be able to actually answer the question. Trump was asked, what will you do to keep jobs in the United States? See if you can decipher his answer.
What actions will you take to ensure that our jobs stay in America so we can continue to build the best cars in the world here in Michigan?
So pretty much as we've been saying, and what I want to do is I want to be able to look your business. Years ago in this area, I was honored as the man of the year. It was
okay, stop right there. Never happened. Doesn't exist, not a thing. I don't even know where to start. First of all, it's not an answer to the question. I'll play the whole answer, but that Trump being man of the year is not an answer to the question. Secondly, Trump's instinct is always to make it about himself. And thirdly, this award doesn't exist. He made it up. It's been debunked widely. It hasn't happened. It just didn't happen. Trump was not made man of the year. The award doesn't exist. But he continues.
Maybe 20 years ago, and the fake news heard about it. They said, it never happened.
It didn't happen.
Never happened. And I didn't know who it was. It was a group that honored me as man of the year. The fakers back there, see the fake news? But they said, oh, and they looked and it, they said it never happened, but I said, I swear to you, it happened. It did happen. I was man of the year. And I came and I made a speech and I said, why do you allow them to take your car business away? Why do you allow it to happen? They're taking your business away. And I didn't know too much about it. All I know is they were taking your car industry away from you. They said it never happened. And lo and behold, somebody said, I remember the event, and then we found out and we had everything. We got the awards, we had everything. It did happen, but I gave a speech which at the...
Yeah, so it didn't happen. This was widely researched. The so-called award doesn't exist. I guess some completely meaningless local chapter of some group nominated Trump for something, but it's a completely fabricated story. But the question was, how are you going to keep jobs in the United States? That was the question. And Trump doesn't have an answer. So he makes it about himself and how great he is. And he weaponizes the crowd against the members of the media at the back of the room, who, by the way, I think are increasingly friendly to Trump. I don't know that adversarial media is even going to these events that Trump holds. During the same event, Trump started talking about President McKinley in another one of these confused non sequiturs.
We're going to be doing a lot of things, but we're lowering taxes. We're going to use tariffs very, very wisely. Our country in the 1890s was probably, Marcia, probably the wealthiest it ever was because it was a system of tariffs. And we had a president, McKinley, right? You remember Mount McKinley, and then they changed the name. But one of those things, he was really a very good businessman, and he took in billions of dollars at the time, which today it's always trillions, but then it was billions and probably hundreds of millions. But
anyway, so Trump definitely still does not understand how tariffs work, and he's trying to justify the use of tariffs by saying, well, what about President McKinley, and how about that? This did not go well. And one of the most jarring and notable things about putting Trump in front of voters is he seems so bored. He seems to have difficulty paying attention to the question, When other people talk, and again, it's not a personal failing to have ADHD. We spoke to a psychiatrist who said, Trump very clearly has ADHD. It would be logical to we'd all be better off if he managed it with medication appropriately dosed and taken. But you can just tell that it's not just that. He also doesn't care. He doesn't care about the people that are there. He doesn't really want to answer their questions. He knows that winning doesn't actually depend on answering Cynthia or whoever's question that is in there. And when they do these events, either at a town hall on TV with Hannity or in more of a rally type setting with Marsha Blackburn in this case, you can tell he just doesn't care and also lacks the knowledge to answer any of these questions. So a pretty good weekend for Kamala Harris as far as rallies and campaign events go, as we spoke about earlier. A pretty mediocre weekend for Donald Trump. After the break, we're going to dig into this Kamala is mentally disabled thing and see if any Republicans have the audacity to say that's a completely inappropriate thing to say. You can probably guess what the answer is. Follow us on social media, interact with the David Pakman Show community, see exclusive content, see when we're taking calls live, and stay up to date on other big show announcements. We post daily. Find us on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, and TikTok. Donald Trump suffered another scary cognitive event during a campaign speech in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, when he both attacked and praised Kamala Harris, getting visibly confused and having to completely abort his train of thought. Now, what I'm going to play for you here, I showed this clip to some ER doctors I know, and I said, if this happened, would you say, hey, you should go in and get checked out? They looked at it and they said, it's not there, but it's 80% of the way there. He seems to completely lose connection to reality for a moment. Sometimes when these things happen and they're more severe, the person doesn't know, they don't remember even that they were saying this thing. And you would want to check them out for stroke or something else. They said, that's not this, but this is something. There's something here, and you will see Trump completely loses his train of thought. And what he says doesn't bear any connection to reality. First blaming and then defending Kamala Harris.
Disgusting illegal alien who was led into the United States by Kamala and her lax law. Every one of my killer. We had the great. He would have never been able to get in. She stopped every single one of them. She was the border czar. Now she doesn't admit that. Whether you call her a czar or not, she was no czar.
So Trump says Kamala is responsible for someone who came in. Then he just glitches for 5, 6, 7 seconds and then says Kamala is responsible for having stopped all of the criminals from coming in. Totally disconnected from reality. Just gone. There's nothing there. Still obsessed with Joe Biden, Trump talks about his beautiful body and how it's a better body than Joe Biden.
Patience is beautiful. I could have been sunbathing on the beach. You have never seen a body so beautiful. Much better than Sleepy Joe.
And then moments after Trump suffered that scary cognitive event, he says it's Kamala Harris who is mentally disabled. Hold on, wrong clip. Let's get to the correct clip, please.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Okay? She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this.
A mentally disabled Kamala Harris is his opponent. And Trump is scared to debate her? That's weird. In fact, what does it mean about Donald Trump that he lost the debate to a supposedly mentally disabled person? Then in another instance of projection, Trump says, isn't it nice to have a president who doesn't need a teleprompter? while using a teleprompter. Trump says this.
I don't use a teleprompter that much, just pieces. By the way, I said this the other day. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need to use a teleprompter? Isn't it, Uncle Sam? Isn't that nice? Wouldn't it?
Sir, they can see your teleprompter on the stage. It's creating an insane glare and reflection. And now we're supposed to pretend it's there just for kicks. Trump then sort of raised an apocalyptic vision of Wisconsin that certainly not recognizable to any of the people I know who live in Wisconsin. Listen to this.
His promise. I will liberate Wisconsin from this mass migrant invasion of murderers, rapists, hoodlums, drug dealers, thugs, and vicious gang members. We are going to liberate our country. I will liberate our nation. Our nation will be free again if we win this election. And it's going to have to go fast because we're not going to be able to handle it.
Right. Wisconsin must be liberated from the murderers, rapists, hoodlums, thugs, vicious gang members. People in Wisconsin wondering, what is he talking about? That doesn't sound like the Wisconsin that we know. It doesn't seem to be a Wisconsin that exists in the real world. But you have to create that apocalyptic vision to then say you will solve it. If it's like things are kind of okay, well, why would we vote for you? We wouldn't. So Trump needs to do it. He also talks about the occupations of little cities and towns.
How does it, you're talking about areas of the Midwest where they're becoming famous because they're being occupied. And this is hundreds of little cities and little towns. They're petrified. And their law enforcement is petrified. You have a sheriff and a deputy, or you have a small group, and you'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well.
Yeah. Trump's in an intimate relationship, certainly more intimate than the relationship with Melania, with an MK-47.
I've become an expert on guns quickly. My sons know guns. They couldn't believe what the story they heard, the two stories they heard, actually. But I don't care because we're doing it for you. We're going to make our I don't care. I just say we got to do it.
You know, the saddest part about all of this is that hateful propaganda works really, really well. At a certain point in the speech, a fly got in. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is Trump kind of trying to blame the fly on Biden-Harris?
Remember, there's a hat that's made that sells like crazy. Oh, there's a fly. Oh, I wonder where the fly came from. See, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had a fly up here. You're changing rapidly, but we can't take it any longer.
I guess 2 years ago, the destruction of Wisconsin under Biden-Harris, which led to a fly, hadn't yet taken place. And then finally, Donald Trump, you know, when Trump says most people don't know X, what he means is, I didn't know about this until 5 minutes ago. And here's another most people don't know. This is a really good one.
Immigrants, they have a phone app so that people can come into our country. These are smart immigrants, I guess, because most people don't have any idea what the hell a phone app is. But they do. These are very intelligent immigrants. But you know who?
So when Trump says most people don't have any idea what a phone app is, you all know what it means. It means Trump doesn't have any idea what a phone app is. So a disgusting, cognitively disturbing event where Trump is now claiming Kamala Harris is mentally disabled. What do some Republicans think about that claim? Let's talk about that next. Lindsey Graham appeared yesterday on CNN, and he was asked about Donald Trump calling Kamala Harris mentally impaired. Lindsey refuses to just denounce it, which he should, instead taking a softer approach.
Trump campaign, because I want to play something Trump said yesterday in a speech ostensibly about Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to the border. Let's take a listen.
Kamala is mentally impaired. Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. If you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country.
Okay, so first of all, there are actual people out there with mental impairments, and that's insulting to them. Second of all, Vice President Kamala Harris is not mentally impaired.
No, I just think she's crazy liberal. I don't question her.
But what do you think about that rhetoric?
I just think the better course to take is to prosecute the case that her policies are destroying the country. They're crazy liberal. 400,000 people have been left.
So he goes into a talking point coma now. He won't denounce it. He goes, well, you know, better than saying she's mentally disabled, I would talk about how she's crazy liberal. I think it's better. It's better. It's not that mentally disabled's bad. I just think we're better off if we say crazy liberal. All right. Well, so I guess that one didn't make much of an impression on him. Then Tom Emmer joined Martha Raddatz on ABC. He was asked, do you approve of this language? What do you think? He also downplays it. He's like, there's language I like better.
Consistently praised Donald Trump, talking about him often. Trump last night called Kamala Harris mentally disabled. He said that Joe Biden became that way. She was born that way. Do you think Kamala Harris is mentally disabled? Do you approve of that kind of language?
I think Kamala Harris is the wrong choice for America. I think Kamala Harris is actually as bad or worse as the administration that we've witnessed for the last 4 years, Martha. You got 20% inflation. You got the average family spending $1,200.
And there he goes.
More dollars a month.
Congressman, do you approve of that language? Do you approve of that language? Donald Trump calling her mentally disabled, mentally impaired. So you don't approve of that. You don't.
I think we should stick to the issues. The issues are.
There he goes. Then he goes back to talking points. Why can't they? Why won't they just say, I agree with Trump on policy? Let's pretend for a second he has policy. I agree with Trump on policy, but I don't agree with calling people mentally disabled, right? Remember when John McCain, when that woman in a town hall event said, I think he's an Arab. And McCain said, no. He's just a good, I'm paraphrasing. He's just a good man who cares about America, who has different ideas. Now, it might have been nice for McCain to say, also, if he was an Arab, we welcome all sorts of different ethnic backgrounds and religions here in the United States. It wouldn't be a problem. Put that aside for a moment. What about that? What about, listen, I disagree with Kamala Harris on policy, but she's not mentally disabled, and it's offensive to people who do struggle with cognitive impairment and disability to say that. He shouldn't say it. I still like his tax plan better. But I think they won't say it. They're terrified. They're terrified of Trump. And this reminds us of the grip that they have, that Trump has, rather, over the Republican Party. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com, joinpakman.com. All right, another J.D. Vance campaign event going horribly wrong, leaving him in the parking lot of a restaurant, shaking hands with people. Oh, why does it keep happening to them? Mediaite reports J.D. Vance forced to greet supporters in a parking lot after restaurant denies him entry. Now, there is follow-up to this. He was initially denied entry for the campaign event. Okay, J.D. Vance was forced to address supporters in a parking lot after a Pennsylvania restaurant denied entry to him because they didn't want to host a campaign event. According to NBC News, supporters of Vance showed up early to Primanti Brothers in North Versailles, Pennsylvania, to greet Vance. However, employees with the restaurant told reporters cameras would not be allowed in, and they did not want to host the event. So here's some video of what happened. People are furious, everybody's mad, and then it will cut to JD outside the restaurant, I guess, talking to people.
It's a riot. The manager went outside, told them they need to leave. They will call the police if he comes out. Unfortunately, he cannot come in. So what's going to happen is that they're going to take down our name, all our information, so the next time the kitchen crew's running out because everyone's canceling their orders. Everyone just canceled all the orders, and we're just paying for what we drink, and then everyone's leaving. But yes, unfortunately, Vance cannot come out of his car, cannot shake our hands, because Primanti's brothers does not want him in here whatsoever.
Now, it turned out that the problem wasn't they don't want him here whatsoever. It's that they didn't plan this. And all of a sudden, security, Secret Service, you're a restaurant trying to do business operating on thin margins. It's a complete lack of respect. Let's watch the end of this video, then we'll talk more.
So that is what's happening. There you go.
That we leave.
Yep.
We are now banned from Primanti Brothers.
Yep. Terrible. So there's the VP. This is as close as we're going to get to him.
They will call.
By the way, calling him the VP, it's the same thing they do with Trump. He's a senator, okay? He wants to be vice president. The VP.
Absolutely.
We paid for everybody's food. We
So here's Vance talking outside.
gave him a nice tip. And of course, when I gave him a nice tip, I said, no taxes on tip. So, it's all right. Don't hold it against her. She just got a little nervous, but it's a great local business. Let's keep on supporting it. And most importantly, November 5th or before, go vote. Let's go win this thing.
All right, so there's JD Vance, and he's behaving in a reasonable way. This is his campaign, you know. They didn't schedule it. They didn't plan it. They didn't go and actually set this up appropriately. And Primanti Brothers put out a statement where they said Primanti's prides itself on being a staple of the Pittsburgh community and a proud American business that has hosted sitting presidents, politicians, and political candidates across the spectrum for more than 90 years. Our doors are open to all patrons who wish to dine with us. Without any advance notice, today's campaign stop caused some momentary confusion for our staff. However, Senator Vance, by the way, they don't refer to him as the VP. Senator Vance and his team were welcomed into our restaurant shortly after, engaged with guests inside and on the property. Senator Vance's supportive comments that our manager got a little nervous given the Secret Service, police, and crowd accurately reflect the nature of what occurred, and we are glad that it was resolved quickly. This is a campaign thing. This goes to the continued total incompetence. And hilariously, you know, it all turns sort of into a political thing. It is true that Harris Walls stopped at Primanti's. I actually have video of it. It is not, as you can see, because of political bias that Harris Walls were allowed in and JD wasn't. JD ultimately was allowed in. It's because they did the advance work with Harris Walls and JD Vance just showed up. But that didn't stop the Harris campaign from immediately trolling the Trump Vance campaign with video of their welcome at Primanti Brothers.
Years between the three of us teaching. 85 years.
All right, so it's Kamala Harris, etc., shaking hands. People are clapping. People are loving it. Obviously, when you know that Harris is going, Harris supporters will go and wait there. If you know that Vance is going or Trump, then their supporters will go and wait there. That's not what this is about. It's just a small group of people. It's the continued utter and abject incompetence of this campaign, again, creating another embarrassing situation. JD Vance misgendered himself yesterday, saying he's a wife. It's just weird because he seems to be experiencing the very gender confusion, I guess, that he attacks and makes other people feel terrible about. Listen to JD.
I wish that I could take you on our campaign plane and give you the perspective that I've gotten to this country in the past 7 weeks. This is the coolest, other than being a wife to this beautiful lady here and a father to our 3 kids, the greatest honor of my life.
Other than being a wife to this beautiful lady here. So listen, he obviously misspoke. I get it. The whole gender thing is sort of funny and depressing in the context of this campaign. You know, Trump wears more makeup than Kamala Harris. JD Vance wears eyeliner and mascara. He calls himself a wife. And then he's upset about not only trans people, he's also upset about women who choose not to have kids, women who can't have kids. Just give me a break with all of this stuff. And by the way, from a legislatively significant standpoint, he wants elected officials to be deciding about medical procedures and right in there with patients and doctors in exam rooms rather than only the people who really have a stake in that decision. So listen, I support JD. He can be whatever gender he wants to be. I couldn't care less. Either way, he would be a horrible vice president, and having him a heartbeat away from being the president of the United States is also terrifying. I will mention, I guess, because people keep emailing me about this, there's a contingent of my audience that's wondering why I haven't talked more about the allegations that Vance is gay. There was this claim that came out from a supposed former, a guy who went on a date with J.D. Vance. I don't remember if it was to an Applebee's or a Chili's. And this guy said this was a date. Like this is just abundantly clear that it's what it was. It was a date with the possibility of it becoming a romantic sort of relationship or encounter. Why haven't I talked more about it? I mean, two things. It's not extensively sourced. It's a guy who says this, and there's a little bit of reporting on it. So it seems like kind of an inappropriate thing to start focusing in on. And maybe more importantly, I don't care J.D. Vance's gender. I don't care what his sexual orientation is. My only concern is that these are not only horrible people when it comes to how others in marginalized groups should be treated, sometimes they're also hypocrites. And so the hypocrisy of that, if it were true, is of course politically relevant and interesting to me. But I haven't talked more about it because it just doesn't seem well-sourced enough to really make it a point of contention or discussion. We have a voicemail number. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. And this voicemail is representative of hundreds of messages I get about why people's comments are being deleted on YouTube. Let's listen to it, and then I'm going to make a declaration.
Hey, David, could you explain to your YouTube viewers and commenters why comments on your videos can sometimes disappear? That is, start a new comment, save it, go to edit it, and it's not there.
Okay. Let me first state, so that I get no more emails about this or comments, I am not deleting your comments. Our producers and moderators are not deleting your comments. We receive close to 500,000 comments a month on YouTube. We do not have the staffing levels or the wherewithal or the time in the day to go and delete individual comments. That's number one. Secondly, what about I commented and the comment is gone? What's going on? Couple possible explanations. Explanation number one is glitchy YouTube. YouTube's been glitchy for as long as we've been on it, 15 years. Could be technological glitches. The other option is that if you are regularly attacking people, posting troll comments, posting nonsense, lying, etc., YouTube's community, I'm not even saying my viewers, because this can happen YouTube-wide. You may be getting reported by other users on YouTube such that you are what is called shadow banned. As functionally, you don't get a message that you're blocked or banned, but your comments just disappear. That has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with our production staff or moderators. It's that if you are pissing off enough people on YouTube to the point where you are getting reported, you could end up in a shadow banned state based on my understanding of how that works. Again, it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with my staff. So that's the bottom line. On the bonus show today, I was in Montreal, Canada over the weekend and in Vermont. I met with Canadian MP Anthony Housefather. I'm going to talk all about it on today's bonus show. Secondly, Republican Jeff Flake has endorsed Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Why did he do it? He explains. We will discuss it. And Trump and MAGA are now proposing almost like a one-day purge to stop crime, where police are encouraged to run rampant and just beat the hell out of people, I guess. He's not really explained the details. Would a one-day purge work to reduce crime? I think you know my opinion. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpacman.com. 8 Sleep makes a product that is amazing, which I love. It's called the Pod, and it fits around your existing mattress and cools down your bed so you can sleep better. They just released the newest model called the Pod 4 Ultra, which in addition to cooling down or heating up your bed, can even lift up your head when you're snoring so you can breathe better. It's incredible. To get $350 off, go to 8sleep.com/Pacman and use code Pacman. The link is in the description.